the home of the common Joe and the common Sally in the know, even more so than all those media talking heads. Woo! Well. It's another wonderful day, magically wonderful day in the outlaw posse neighborhood. And today we're going to talk about the fact that the Big Ten and the Fox Network and USC may have a little explaining to do. In this article that I read on Athens, they're basically saying and quoting the Arizona president as saying that UCLA was not the first choice of the Big Ten. In fact, it was Oregon. So the question is, why did USC and Fox nix an invite from the Big Ten? But the joke may be on them, because it seems like the Big Ten may still invite a few more teams from the West. Let's talk about it. Today's song of the day is Looks That Kill by Motley Crue, because I can only imagine the looks that Oregon is giving USC. Probably looks that kill. But I've been taking a few sabbaticals here off and on. As y'all can tell, I've been taking 2 and 3 day intervals on doing these podcasts. As you know, the stories on college football and whatnot are not as prevalent in the off season. But I may start talking about the NCAA tournament a little bit, since we're down to 16 teams and things are getting serious. You guys and gals, tell me in the comments section what you would like me to talk about. Or just hit me up on Facebook, as I said before, under Jesse Paul Clark, also known as JPC. Got this in reverse today. This is the Outlaw Posse coming on in here once again. It's in effect. This is the Outlaw of College Football. That's the OCF. Also on Twitter at OCF Productions. Now, getting right to it here. It seems like, from what I'm gathering from this article, that they wanted Oregon first. They wanted them to be one of the top 2 teams to come into their conference, that being the Big Ten. I got to stop with all them pronouns so people know who I'm talking about. But, yeah, from this article, it just says an Arizona president said this now. So this ain't something that's just a rumor. This is a guy that's been privy to the inner workings of the conference and their little meetings and whatnot. And so he said in this article that Oregon was one of the first choices for the Big Ten because of their variety of uniforms and whatnot. Really clicks. They got their own little niche with the students out there and the recruits, and that helps them a lot. Not to mention that they probably got one of the richest boosters in the world in Phil Knight, who, as we know, is the president and owner and founder of Nike. So they've got a lot of money and a lot of swoosh out there, like the swoosh of the Nike, to offer a conference. But the problem was, in my opinion, and this is something that's been expounded on quite a few times, that USC, they say, wanted UCLA because they'd be a closer travel partner and blah, 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 blah. But we all know that's a bunch of crap, because we've heard from numerous sources out there that USC is not a big fan of adding Oregon or Washington to the mix. Now, Oregon, the reason why I think it's more of an Oregon thing than Washington is because Oregon has been coming into the state. They not only have been out recruiting Lincoln Riley and USC nationally, they've been out recruiting them in their own state. Oregon has been coming into California and taking their recruits. So Lincoln Riley, as he always does, and looking for an unfair, cowardly advantage, because that's what Linky Boy does, the one we call Tebow. I don't know if y'all are familiar. Those of you that are new to this channel, Tebow is an acronym. It's TBOW. It stands for the bitch out west. That is implying and directed towards Lincoln Riley, because he does some shady stuff. And this is just another shady thing that you can might not can pin on Linky Boy. And the fact that if USC and UCLA are the only two teams out west that have a Big Ten label, then they'll probably have a slight recruiting advantage over Oregon and Washington in their estimation. Not sure if I agree with that, but nevertheless, it could. So to me, Oregon, whether they realize it or not, they hold all the dominoes here, in my opinion. Washington, not as much. Washington, to me, would just be a follower of Oregon. I know the Washington Husky fans out there are going to kill me for that. But if Oregon does get an invite from the Big Ten, because they're saying in this article that the Big Ten still wants to invite Oregon. And if they can get around USC crying and wetting their diaper and losing their noodle long enough, just like the SEC did with Texas A&M, you know, because Texas A&M, same situation. Texas A&M did not want Texas in the conference, nor Oklahoma. They seen it as having a badge of honor of some sort over those two programs, having the SEC logo when they go into recruits' homes in the Texas area. But now they don't have that. And USC, to me, was probably thinking the same thing. But the Big Ten is probably, with the other 14 institutions, are probably going to override USC on that, much to the chagrin of one Linky boy. So if Oregon does take an invite from the Big Ten, which I think is probably, it's hard to call, it's hard to say, because to me, in some ways, the Big Ten, I don't think, has the backbone somewhat when it comes to certain situations, like standing up to the skittle shitters out there in LA, that being USC, whereas the SEC was like, look, Texas A&M, you know, this has gone on long enough. We give you your little 10-year head start on Texas. Now we got to do it, man. We got to take these two teams, because if you don't, guarantee you the Big Ten would have taken Texas and Oklahoma had the SEC not done it. But here's one thing I think should happen that really nobody's really talked about. Everybody keeps talking about Big 12 going after four corner schools. The Big 12 needs to go out there with a big bat and Brett Yormark, who's been known to think outside the box. He needs to go out there with a big bat and take a big old swing and try to get Oregon and Washington in the Big 12. If you could do that, then you could add one of the premier two teams out of the four corner schools that you prefer. Now, I don't know which one that would be. To me, it would likely be, I don't know, Arizona and maybe Utah. Utah's had a lot of success in the Pac-12, won the title, I think, the last 2 years in a row. Arizona has a great basketball tradition. Decent market in Tucson. You could also say that about Arizona State. But the Big Ten, I think, would want to add Oregon and Washington. And then after that, they may even go after Cal and Stanford to give them an even number of 20. That way they could beat the SEC to the 20 spot, which might be something they want to consider. But in my estimation, to be Cal and Stanford, Cal and Stanford would be more of an academic ad to, you know, patronize the academia out there in the Big Ten. But I think what the Big Ten will do is they'll invite Oregon and Washington, and Cal and Stanford will be left out. Probably end up having to join the Ivy League or join the Mountain West or some shit like that. Oregon and Washington joins the Big Ten, and then the Big Ten may stay pat for a little while at 18 and wait and see what's going to happen for that dreaded grant of rights out there in the ACC that goes on for Buzz Light years to infinity and beyond to 2036. If the ACC, which we've been hearing rumblings that there may be some loopholes, if the ACC can find a way out of that grant of rights, the ACC teams that want out, that is, then the Big Ten may save those two spots to try to get into the ACC markets, which they've been wanting to do and they've been desiring for quite some time. They would probably try to pounce on North Carolina and Miami, who are, I think, AAU schools, which is something that they keep blowing out their ass all the time. We all know it's a crock because they've had a tent in their pants for Notre Dame. They've had a straight-up hard-on for Notre Dame for decades, who has no AAU status. And Nebraska just lost their AAU status a few years back and haven't regained it yet. So we all know that's just them trying to act elitist or trying to patronize their academia. More like the last one. They're patronizing their academia. But they could go out and add North Carolina or Miami. If for some reason the SEC pounced on one of those two, Virginia is very desirable for them. I think they're AAU as well. Then you have Duke, which would be a great basketball addition. Georgia Tech also, I think, is an AAU school. That would be a desirable location for them in the Atlanta market. But like I said, it just comes back to one big duck domino, in my opinion. What do you guys and gals think about all this? You think the Ducks hold the dominoes? Drop in the comments section. Let me know. And that's all I got to say about that. If you don't mind, there's a heart down here. Hit that. Throw me a few dollars in the coffers. And as always, KMCA to all the other teams. Class is now officially dismissed.